morning, everybody. Hope everyone is having a wonderful, wonderful Sunday. So, as we always begin, we reject the baptism of John, we reject the baptism of the Spirit, and we only hail thyself. Hope everyone's doing well. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Satan and Coffee. Turn this down a little bit more. So I really like this lo-fi track. I made the lo-fi track. I made this. I wanted to make it a little bit darker, but it is kind of what it is. I do hope you guys like it. Doing a metal track is really hard. And I just thought, it's the morning. It's Satan and Coffee. I feel like a lo-fi vibe is a little bit more appropriate than, you know, metal every morning. I mean, don't get me wrong. I mean, I love starting my day with, you know, some Dade style metal. Don't get me wrong, but I think the lo-fi fits. It works. Good morning, Tree Sap. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Good to see you. Rook, good to see you. Maeve, good to see you. Halseer, good to see you. Evil Gaming, good to see you. Good to see all of you. So I'm just going to give you guys a heads up right now. There is a potential with today's episode that I'm probably going to piss people off. So if you are easily offended, consider this your trigger warning. You know, back out now, I suppose. Triggered, right? So I went down a rabbit hole last night, and this is connected to our oh no, my feelings, right? This is connected to the topic that we were discussing last night on Apocrypha with Mystic, Rook, and Dyra. And obviously, because it's Satan and Coffee, I'm going to give it how I see it. I guess Mystic is kind of like my guardrail on Apocrypha, so I don't, you know, basically commit like content suicide online. And because I really don't know how to shut my mouth with shit. I don't know when it's a good time to shut up, and so I just kind of do it. Just it kind of keeps me in line. And it's not intentionally designed to offend anybody, but here's the thing. So here's the thing, right? So I looked at some points last night, right? I'm triggered for those that are not here to be triggered. Awesome. I love you guys. You guys are fucking awesome. They're amazing. Thank you for putting up with my bullshit and my antics. So over the last 10, 15 years, we have seen society in general just go down the fucking drain. Like, I mean, I think the position that we're currently in barely, you know, constitutes calling what we have a society, right? Because society is usually, or should be rather, something cohesive. And we were at a complete lack of cohesion at the moment in society. And so the reason I want to talk about this is not inherently to be political. the reason I want to talk about this is because as occultists, left-hand path occultists, our sovereignty, our agency is the most sacred thing that we have. Our ability to think for ourselves, to critically think, is the most sacred thing that we have. And I don't believe that there is an us versus them situation happening. But I do believe that a lot of people are viewing it that way. Because most people don't take the time to look at the nuances in a situation, especially, you know, what we have going on globally at the moment. So I kind of looked at 4 points that seem to be prevalent in today's society that are pitting us against each other. Like, just perpetually. It just seems to be perpetual. And that is the conservative versus leftists, Islam versus Christianity, black versus white, rich versus poor, right? So right versus left, all that shit. And the problem is we've always dealt with these things, right? These have always been points of contention in society, right? But rarely is it ever all of them simultaneously a point of contention in society, which is why we've been able to kind of gloss over it or glaze over it and kind of move on with our day without, you know, any problems, right? And so the issue here is that each one of these things that I've mentioned are ideological, right? We are living in a world of ideologues. It's our society right now is engulfed in ideology and identity. And we can sit here and we can map like the philosophical roots of all of this stuff. But the fact of the matter stands that the average citizen doesn't see the nuances. What do most people see? Like, if you listen and you pay attention, you take a step back and you don't get involved, and which is, I think, is extremely important on the left-hand path, is to take that step back and not get involved. Don't fall into it. What do you see? Those people are threatening my way of life. Those people are violent. Those people are immoral. Those people are invading. You pick any era, you swap in any group, and the pattern is the same. It's always been the same, right? I talked about the Crusades last night, and the Crusades began as a defensive call. And it became a mass movement of people who didn't understand geopolitics. They didn't care about theology and happily butchered entire populations because their priest said God wills it. And it hasn't changed. Humans really haven't changed that much. Elites argue about ideology. The public kills each other over symbols. And the reason why duality is dangerous is because duality is a feature of this. Binary thinking is the most reliable crowd control technology ever invented. And that goes to the basis of what I mentioned. You know, some other ones is mask versus no mask, vax versus anti-vax, right? You know, the left v right, you know, whatever, right? It's a binary. Right? And the problem is once a population accepts the binary, the third option disappears. The option where you stand outside the frame and ask better questions. as left-hand path occultists, it is our responsibility to ask the difficult questions. It is our responsibility to, whether to ourselves or to others, is to ask those questions, is to constantly question what is happening around us. The sad thing is there are sides that always say we believe in individuality, but accept everyone to believe the same thing they do. Exactly. Exactly. Right? You know, no one's, there is no tolerance anymore. I mean, there's no tolerance. There is no inclusion. There is no acceptance. Right? You know, this group accepts that group and this group accepts that group, but the people in the middle, whose side are you on? Me, my own, both sides are stupid. Exactly. Exactly, Halseer. Exactly. I mean, you know, there's no better way to put it, right? I couldn't have said it better myself, you know? And here's the thing though, right? So this is how you create the powder keg, right? The powder keg that we're talking about. You don't need a mastermind, right? So a lot of people are focused on like, who's doing this, right? You honestly don't need a mastermind. Like, believe it or not, as a global society, we have a propension to destroy each other and ourselves. We just do. You know, sorry for going back to 1985, but, you know, Terminator 2 taught us that. Or was that in the 90s? Terminator 2 came out in the 80s, didn't it? Or was that like a 94 thing? No, because I think Terminator was 89. So early 90s, late 80s, early 90s, right? Terminator 2 taught us that. It's in our nature. And just look outside your window. You know, so you don't need a mastermind. You just need enough pressure and a population who thinks in two colors. What's the next step? Dehumanization, right? That is the precondition for everything catastrophic. 91. Thank you. Thank you, Treesap. I knew someone, either you or Maeve, were going to get to that. You know, so dehumanization is the next kind of precondition for everything to go catastrophic, right? So every genocide begins with those people are less than human. I'm protecting the world by removing them. They are a threat to everything we value. I mean, I'm watching a movie unfold in front of my eyes. I was watching some dipshit for Turning Point USA talk about how he doesn't want one ideology in the United States, but he wants another ideology. Like, you know, I don't want prayer mats, but I want prayer. And it's like, you know better. And then behind him is a giant picture of Charlie Kirk and the word courage behind him. And I picked up on some, like, for me, I picked up on subliminal messaging there because they have Charlie Kirk in the middle of the word courage. And the one word that's blatantly in your face because COU doesn't spell a word is rage on the other side of his head. And the way this guy was talking, he was very angry and very rageful. And it just felt very subliminal to me. You know, are you asking me if I respect it? Is that what you're asking me? Clarify, please. So, modern society dresses it up in nicer language, though, right? So, but it's the same old logic, right? So they go with they're extremists, they're dangerous, they're corrupting society, they want to destroy us. So In its current form, with what I'm seeing, no, I don't. I lived in Turkey for 2 years. I worked for a man that wanted to adopt me. He was a wonderful person. And he gave me an apartment, and in the apartment, in the middle of the apartment, in the middle of the living room, there was a pedestal with a Quran, like a very expensive Quran, also like gold inlay. And I read it. I read the whole thing. And I met a lot of wonderful people that are Muslim. I respect the Muslim. That I can say. But I think the ideology is dependent on the person and how the person takes it and how the person moves it. I know many people in Istanbul, you know, that denounce Sharia in any form. And unfortunately, in its current form, the way that it's moving through society, it's a risk for a Muslim to denounce Sharia. It's a risk. It's a risk for them to do it. They're afraid to do it. Because the communities are so organized and they have their own laws that, let's be realistic, they don't governmentally trump any national laws, like whether you're the UK or the US or anything like that. They don't trump any of those, you know, laws set in place by state or federal government. But it's almost like a gang, right? Gangs have rules, right? Their rules don't trump, you know, actual laws, but people that are in the gang still afraid of those laws. And so I'm in a distinct position after living in Istanbul for 2 years and seeing the culture firsthand, and, you know, watching people actively try to defend themselves against regimes that want to make Turkey, or wanted to make Turkey, you know, like other places. And I have great respect for those people. They're still friends of mine to this day, and we still, you know, have conversations about this. We talk about this, what's happening, what's going on in the world. And these are Muslims. These are people. They pray 5 times a day. They, you know, willingly, you know, and even they, you know, the religion is used to further ideas, right? Christians did it. I think the only group that hasn't done it, like I can't think of any mass, any destructive historical events that the Jews incited. At least not off the top of my head. I'm sure maybe somewhere in history there is, but, you know, in modern history, I can't think of any. But so once people accept that line, right? Those lines, they're extremists, they're dangerous, they're corrupting society, they want to destroy us. Whichever side you're on, whether it's the Muslim saying it to the Christian, or the Christian saying it to the Muslim, or the pagan saying it to whoever, right? Whenever we begin to accept those lines, they're extremists, they're dangerous, they're corrupting society, they want to destroy us, all that shit. Once people accept that line, violence stops feeling like violence, and it feels like civic duty. Look at what happened with Charlie Kirk. I'm sorry, but that's a perfect example. That's a perfect modern example. People didn't view it as violence. They viewed it as a necessity. And what have we gotten from this mentality? The Crusades, the Inquisition, the Holocaust, the Rwandan genocide, the Yugoslav wars, ISIS, Christian nationalism, left-wing purges, right-wing purges, different flags, same psychology. Same psychology. Perfect storm I was talking about last night. When we look at the following variables: rapid demographic change, escalating culture wars, declining economic stability, social media algorithms tuned for outrage, political leaders who profit from fear, religious revival on all sides, a populace drowning in identity anxiety. When you mix those ingredients, you don't get dialogues, you get Crusades 2.0. Just with smartphones and better PR teams. Most people won't distinguish ideology from the people inside of it. The subtle parts of it, the subtle part of it does not survive internet scale tribalism. And that's kind of where we're sitting right now, right? We are sitting kind of like at this precipice of all of this stuff happening simultaneously, right? So polarization trends, right? If we look at Pew Research for the last year, 2024, right? Demographic anxiety across Western nations. I mean, you look at countries like Poland or Hungary, which are, you know, paying the EU like £1 million, as €1 million a year or something like that for not allowing refugees into their country, and advertising it like, you know, societal perfection. Like the amount of videos that I've seen of people rolling around Poland and Hungary with with cameras and stuff like that, like showing like, oh, look how peaceful we are. I mean, fuck, even Hungary has like created an advertising campaign for Christmas. It's like, if like, I think it was something along the lines of like, if you want to celebrate Christmas like an actual European, come to Hungary. It's an actual thing. You know, the breakdown of shared cultural norms. This is kind of an important aspect for society, right? There has to be something we agree on as a society. Like, society's supposed to be cohesive. It's supposed to be, you know, there's supposed to be some cohesion and connection inside of a society, something that we agree on. And I want to be clear here also. I'm thinking about like Tyrone's question. I don't respect Christianity for the same thing. I can respect the Christian. I just don't respect Christianity. To me, like, so for example, like Mark 5, right? Mark 5 is, you know, an Eastern Orthodox Christian. He's still a Christian. Give a fuck what kind of Christian he is. So I still don't like Christianity. I think Christianity is a crock of shit. But I respect Mark 5. I respect the individual. And I think that that's supposed to be how it is, right? Like, I think, you know, there's different reasons of why I don't respect, you know, both of those. But, you know, they've kind of proven themselves over the centuries to not be something to respect. Right? I respect the individual's choice to choose whatever path and faith that they want to be on. And I respect the individual, and I respect, you know, the conversation. They're all hypocrites. Yeah. I mean, and the thing is it's this idea that, like, to disrespect the individual but respect the organization as a whole. And it's like, I think that that's backwards thinking. You know? Yeah, most of them preach shit that they don't practice. You know, and it's just like, it's on an individual basis, right? Because the thing is, you know, you stop every 3 seconds. Am I freezing every 3 seconds, guys? it might be your internet discipline. It's sorry, disciple. Wow, I don't know why I just called you discipline. I'm so sorry. Like anybody else experiencing that I'm like pausing or freezing every 3 seconds? No, your video's good. Yeah, okay. So for me, I think the idea of needing to respect the, you know, the faith and, you know, not respecting the individual that, you know, believes in it based on what they believe. I think that that's ass backwards, because every faith has a combative, you know, aspect to it. And I think it is that combative aspect. I mean, that's the thing. It shouldn't exist in it, right? If you're talking about peace and love and respect and all of that stuff, then like your faith shouldn't have a combative aspect to it. We don't have a combative aspect to it, right? You know, we're pure fucking self-defense, right? I mean, it's in the Satanic Bible, right? Somebody smites you, smash them in the face. But, you know, they need to make a move on us first. Right? That's, you know, that's the law, right? That's the idea. Self-defense, protect yourself, right? Protect what you have, right? I respect those who practice what they profess. Exactly. Yes. Exactly. You know, but I don't feel like, you know, having this incessant need to be politically correct and say, oh yes, I respect Christianity and I respect Islam. Don't. Sorry, I just don't. Right? Christians have blood on their hands. Most faiths do. And the organization perpetuates it. Right? The organization doesn't accept it. I mean, look at modern day Christianity. It's the same shit. Nobody gives a fuck when I talk about Christianity. Right? Like, that's the thing, right? I think that's really fucking funny, right? Most people don't give a shit when I talk about Christianity. You don't fucking care. When I talk about how much I hate Christianity, Catholicism, and the organization, you know, of that dogma, nobody cares. Nobody bats an eye. They're like, yeah, fuck the Christians. For some reason, the moment I say the same thing about Islam, oh no, you can't do that. I'm sorry, I feel like I would be a fucking hypocrite if I turned around and I said, yeah, I fucking hate Christianity, but oh yeah, you know, Islam's cool. Like, what? No, dude, I do not. I have no respect for Abrahamic faith. Throw the Jews in there as well. Judaism, right? Is like, you know, throw that in there. You know, because they all got their shit. They all got their shit. They've all got their fucking skeletons, right? No, it's not. If you have to be forced to respect something, right? You know, it's not respect, right? It's please don't crucify me, right? Please don't hang me. And so the thing is like when I sit here and I say that I reject Abrahamic faith, I reject Christianity, I reject Islam, and I reject Judaism. I reject Abrahamic faith. I don't discriminate. I hate all of them equally. Perhaps for different reasons, but all of them equally. Because they're all bullshit. End of fucking story. Sorry, not sorry. Then, to the point that we're talking about right there, forced respect, right? Increased self-censorship and fear of speaking openly. Like, we have to be scared to express a fucking opinion? Like, really? Like, why do I need to be afraid of you? To have an idea, talk to me. Right? I'm not I think I've proven myself over the last 5 fucking years on this channel that I'm open to having a conversation with someone. If a Muslim wants to sit down and have a conversation with me, let's do it. Let's sit down and have a talk. Let's have a conversation. Same thing with any Christian. Let's sit down and have a conversation. Let's sit down and have a conversation. You know? Orthodox Jew, you want to sit down and have a conversation? Jewish, you want to sit down and have a conversation? Let's do it. Let's talk about it. You won't, though, will you? Because it's easier just to hate me from a distance. Because talking to me humanizes me, doesn't it? That's what that does. That makes me real. That makes me a human. That makes me a person, right? None of them do it. None of them sit down and have a conversation with me. Most won't. Mark 5 is the exception. He's not the rule. Tell me I'm fucking wrong. Please, please, somebody tell me that I'm fucking wrong, because you know I'm not. You know I'm not. Somehow they're in the right and I'm in the wrong. Right? It's just weird because they will be like, well, you worship the devil, you're going to hell, but yet worse are people than me. Practice are inherent. Violent people are. Well, this is why I'm saying I respect the person. I respect the individual based on the individual. I'm not going to judge you on your faith. That's the thing. See, this is the thing. I don't understand how we're okay with saying this. I'm saying the same shit about Islam that I'm saying about Christianity. Like, I'm not changing the story here, right? I fucking hate Christianity with an abhorrent fucking passion. But I respect the Christian, and I will sit down and have a conversation with the Christian. I judge the person based on the content of the character, not the religion that they practice. Right? I'm saying the same shit about Islam. I fucking hate it. But I respect the Muslim based on the content of their fucking character. Where's the fucking problem? Nobody gives a shit when I say it about Christianity. Nobody gives a shit when I say it about Judaism. But the moment I say it about Islam, oh, you can't do that. The fuck? Really? For fuck's sake, man. Like, at least I'm consistent. Right? I've been saying this shit for years, right? Like, I'm gonna say, I denounce Abrahamic faith in all of its forms. And then it's a surprise when I turn around and say that I don't respect Islam? I'm sorry, but if you weren't aware, Islam is part of the Abrahamic triptych. Christianity, Islam, Judaism. I judge a person based on the content of the character, not the religion that they practice. I might have issues with Christianity, Islam, and Judaism, but I will not judge the Christian, the Muslim, or the Jew based on their faith. Just like those people shouldn't judge me about working with demons, because me working with demons doesn't inherently make me evil, does it? You can disagree with my practice, but you can still respect me as a person. See how that works? It's not hard, is it? I'm sorry, but I'm pretty goddamn sure I'm spitting facts here. I mean, somebody, if you disagree, please tell me. Right? I welcome that conversation. Open my eyes. It is how it's supposed to be, but because of ideology, because of identity politics, it is an absolute necessity to respect the religion first, and then judge the people. That makes no fucking sense. That doesn't make any fucking sense to me. It makes zero fucking sense to me. And as a left-hand path occultist, I feel that it is our responsibility to bring logic into this shit, at least within our own community. Because both Christianity and Islam, and in certain parts of Judaism, right? Judaism is probably like the most accepting. I wouldn't say accepting, but the most incorporated with magic and mysticism because of its own integrated mysticism, right? But most of these people have dehumanized us so much because of what we believe that they would welcome the opportunity to see us cleansed from the earth based off of the religion, based off of the fundamentals of the faith. And then you ask me why I don't respect these things? Because the fundamental basis, the inherent basis, now we're using the word inherently correctly, the inherent basis, the fundamental aspects of these faiths is to convert as many people as possible and kill whoever doesn't convert. Uh-huh. I mean, there's probably definitely a part of that there. There's definitely a part of that there, but at least I'm, like I said, you know, Mark, like at least I'm being consistent. You know, like, I mean, I respect the person. I do. Based on the content of the character. But I'm not going to sit here and say that I respect a faith that I don't. Because I don't. I respect your right to believe in it, and I will respect you as a human being based on the content of your character. It's that simple. It's that simple. But again, this is all in tandem with the increased self-censorship, right? So like people being afraid to speak openly. And you know, the internet doesn't help. It's the internet has its role in accelerating ideological rigidity, right? You can feel like there's like a static in the air, right? People aren't talking anymore. They're broadcasting at each other like rival prophets, right? Every group is convinced that the other is out to erase them, right? And that's when civilizations quit negotiating and start breaking. That's when they start breaking down. In rival prophets is a really good way to describe it. Well, I mean that's where everybody sits right now. At least that's the way it seems. That's where everybody sits, right? So you know, what we're dealing with currently is basically fundamentalist jurisprudence, right? Right. So, and it's conflict with Western modernity in structural ways, right? Is what we're dealing with. Okay. And this isn't just Islam because it's brewing on both sides, right? You have the fundamentalist Christians, the Christian nationalists, and the political Islam on the other side, and that's just the starting binary, right? What happened during the Crusades? This is why I talk about Crusades 2.0. Is it started as a call to defense, which is what's happening right now. Both sides are calling to defend themselves against the other. We unfortunately get stuck in the fucking middle. And whichever side wins, when that little fucking battle pops off, we're the next run on the ladder. We're the next stop on the hill as shit disintegrates into nothing. Because we don't believe in the Christian God. We don't believe in Allah. Right? So we're the next run on the ladder. And it's terrifying. It's terrifying. It really fucking is. Right? And I want to preface, I want to emphasize, right? This isn't about Muslims as human beings. It's about an ideology that claims total governance authority. Any ideology that claims absolute rule over like consciousness, speech, sexuality, morality, or belief is incompatible with pluralistic society. The West has spent centuries separating religion from state power. Fundamentalists refuse that separation. That's the conflict. That's the conflict. And somehow I'm a bad person for pointing it out. It's in your face every day. You know, and there's plenty of case studies on this stuff, right? And then the problem is like every time like the topic comes up, someone cries racism, right? Like someone else cries invasion, and then the actual like, you know, on the ground social data gets ignored, right? And you can't solve problems if you refuse to, like that you refuse to describe, right? You know, the BBC investigations between 2018 and 2024, right? The UK Home Office reviews, right? Reports on Sharia councils, right? Integration difficulties documented by the Casey Review in 2016, right? You know, there's myth, and then there are measurable, there's quantifiable information that we have. Right? And the problem is both the Christians and the Muslims, as of right now, most of them want to fucking kill each other. Right? Most of the let me elaborate. When I say most, I'm not talking about most as a majority. I'm talking most of the vocal ones want to kill each other, right? Because the passive ones, those are the ones you don't see, right? The moderates, what we consider the moderates, right? Which is just normal fucking people living their lives. We don't see those people. That's the majority. But here's the thing. If we look at Christianity as a religion and how it is globally, it's 1/3 of the world's population is Christian. If we look at Islam as a religion, a global religion, that's what, a quarter, 1/4 the world's population is Muslim. The majority are peaceful. The peaceful majority don't fucking matter. Because if you look at the radicalized aspects of it, back in 2018, I think it was put at like, so the radical majority, the radical minority of Muslims were still 700 million people. And the Christians currently, we don't have any numbers yet, but the radicalization is starting, and Charlie Kirk is the catalyst for the radicalization of the Christians. I have seen Christians in comment sections saying that after Charlie Kirk's death, they wanted to be radicalized. I've seen it. Any belief system that demands submission is authoritarianism. I reject authoritarianism because it is direct opposition to my value of having the courage to question. Tree sap, 100%. 100%. I completely agree with you. I completely agree with you. So it is important to understand and know that yes, the majority of Christians, the majority of Muslims, the majority of everybody is peaceful. The majority of most peaceful people, they're pacifists. They don't want conflict. Most people don't want conflict. But even because if you look at, let's do some math, shall we? Right? Give me a second here, guys. We're gonna do some math. Welcome to Left Hand Path Math. So, right. So currently, think of this. So the global Christian population as of 2023 sits around between 2.4 to 2.6 billion people. Right? Let's go with the low estimate of 2.4 billion. Right? So at a modest estimate, when radicalization begins, we're probably at 2.4 billion people. If 5% of the global Christian population becomes radicalized, that's 120 million people. That's an estimate. That's an estimate at like the beginning of radicalization, right? Like once people begin to start going into that phase of becoming radicalized. So we've already got 700 million estimated sitting on one side. Like that, we can have 120 million on the other side. And Charlie Kirk's that catalyst. Like I hate the fact that the guy was assassinated. Did he have opinions that people disagreed with? Yeah, he had opinions I disagreed with. Does that mean he deserved to get shot in the fucking neck for expressing them? No. Because he wasn't able to put anything into law. He wasn't, he couldn't, affect anyone's lives directly. And he sat down and he had conversations with people. Right? And the fucked up thing is it's like, right? It feels like it is. It feels like it is. It feels like it's fucking engineered. And the governments aren't doing anything. Right? It's 100% engineered, just my 2 cents. Because the thing is here, think about it, right? Most Christians, again, peaceful majority, right, are passive people. They don't want conflict. They don't want war. They don't want, anything like that. They have their principles and their values. But what you're dealing with, right, is there's still a good enough percentage of them that are pissed off enough that if given the right push, they can become militant. And a lot of them are going that direction after Charlie Kirk. I mean, come on. What better catalyst existed for the Christian right than killing a man, assassinating a man that created an organization dedicated to Christianity and having conversations? What better catalyst exists or existed to begin the process of radicalizing Christians? None, as far as I know. None. Program on developing and identifying psyops being used to further other people's goals. 100%. And it's an overlap, right? It's not just one group's goals. Like, it's an overlap. There's multiple groups at play here that, want things to happen and, are pushing this narrative. I don't want to fight with people on the left. I don't want to fight with people on the right. I don't want to fight with Christians. I don't want to fight with Muslims. I don't want to fight with Jews. I'm okay with having a conversation with them, talking about it. Secular law is extremely important in modern day Western society. Secular law and equal protection. And defending free speech even when it's unpopular. Refusing to accept blasphemy taboos in a secular country. We did that with the Christians back in the 90s and the early 2000s, right? They tried to shut down Eminem. They tried to shut down Marilyn Manson. I mean, music was a fucking catalyst for this shit, right? Like, both, Eminem and Marilyn Manson went through government judicial committees to fight for the right to say what they were saying in their music, to create the music, art, fucking art, to create and to make art. They fought fucking judicial committees for a right that is established as the first fucking amendment of the Constitution of the United States of America. No, because extremism has no place. Like, has no place in my community. Extreme ideas have no place in my community whatsoever. Right? Understanding the difference between tolerance and surrender is also extremely important, guys. As left-hand path practitioners, as believers of the philosophy of the left-hand path, our agency, our sovereignty, our belief in ourselves, our individuality, and who we are is the most sacred thing. Pineapple belongs on pizza. Like, I don't have a problem with it. Like, I'll eat Hawaiian. I'll even put ketchup on that shit. There you go. I'll add another one for you. Like when it comes to Hawaiian pizza, I put ketchup on it. Hate me if you want. I put ketchup and then chili flakes. Now I'm throwing hands. Oh, shit. Oh, yeah, that too, that too. Like, put some fucking Franks on there. That's some good stuff. Especially like the extra spicy one. Hell yeah, man. Right, so, but I think it's important for us to understand the difference when it's presented to us in front of our faces between tolerance and surrender, right? Submission, being forced to submit, right? Hey, I grew up in an Italian household, okay? But I can't help the fact that I am a northeastern redneck, right? I'm that motherfucker that does Kraft mac and cheese with cut up hot dog and ketchup. So, right? Like, welfare food, man. Fucking cheese sandwiches because you didn't have butter to grill them up and make a grilled cheese or enough money for bologna. For some reason, Kraft cheese was cheaper than the actual bologna. Or like not having bread and having the bologna and the cheese and then putting a piece of cheese in the middle of the bologna and rolling it up and eating it that way. Ketchup sandwiches, yeah. That was definitely a thing. That was definitely a thing, right? Because you couldn't use the toaster because of the electric bill. Yeah, 100%, 100%, 100%, right? Dry top ramen. Mm-hmm. Breaking it up and eating that shit like chips. Oh yeah, that's fucking crazy. That's fucking crazy. So, pluralism dies when one group insists on dominance. This is an important thing to take note of. And right now, we have two sides that are insisting on dominance. We have the Christians and the Muslims that are butting heads right now. And both sides are insisting on dominance. And the thing is, both sides are wrong for the way that they're handling this shit. Food is the divine language we all can come together for, right? Exactly, right? Food is definitely, you know, shit, man. I remember living in Turkey. Like, I thought it was so weird, like the way that they did breakfast, right? Because they would have a dining room table, but they would roll out like a cloth on the floor and like put all the food on the floor, and like they would sit on little cushions. We'd sit on little cushions and we would eat breakfast, right? And like there's always like bread and, you know, cheese, like, and like egg and stuff like that. And, you know, you just kind of like, you didn't make your own plate like you would, you know, kind of like you didn't, like you would have to like grab each thing individually and this, like, you know, Christians can't even agree on their own BS. No, they can't. They can't. They can't. Like most people in Abrahamic faith can't agree on their own bullshit, right? They can't, right? You know, and so some relevant sources about what I'm talking about, right? So the ACLU, like publications on free expression, the UN UDHR articles 18 and 19 on belief and free speech, right? The European and American sociopolitical analysis on integration pressure, right? So these are all things that I looked into, right? Hope you're all having an awesome weekend. Bliss, yes, I think we are. Feasting is an important aspect of heathenry. It's community and household together. I fully believe in that. Like I fully agree with that, Tree Sap, 100%. 100%. I think like everyone that's fighting right now should just sit down and fucking have dinner. So, freedom means the right to worship, to not worship, to practice occultism, to speak against any belief, to criticize power. The second you lose the right to insult an idea, you lose the right to think freely. And a society that cannot think freely will kneel sooner or later. And this is the premise of fucking everything I am talking about this morning. Right? The right to insult an idea. We need that. We need it. We can't lose it. Right? Because what does freedom mean? Freedom is the right to worship, to not worship, to practice occultism, to not practice occultism, to speak against any belief that you feel like you need to speak against, to criticize power, to criticize any idea that you want to criticize, and have that conversation. Not a call to action. It's a conversation. But unfortunately, most people look at a critical conversation as a call to action against something. When I say that I don't respect Abrahamic faiths, that I despise Abrahamic faiths, I'm not telling you to go be a fucking idiot and do something to a Christian or a Muslim or a Jew. That's dumb. It's not the person that's the problem. It's not. And I think that is the problem that happens, right? Is because of the association, people believe, and I think logically, the reason why people believe that you need to respect the religion and then judge people individually is because when you dislike the faith, they believe that breeds the risk of you hating the people that follow that faith because you don't like the faith. And I think that is just as fucking ignorant. That is such a stupid fucking idea, equal to respecting a faith but disrespecting the person. Right? Because here's the thing. When you look at the violence that exists in the Bible and in the Quran and stuff like that, right? To sit there and say that I respect the faith, but I don't respect the person that follows the violent parts of the faith, is to sit there and say that this is your faith, but I know more about your faith than you do, and you're believing in it wrong. Where do I get with that conversation? Nowhere. And it makes me a fucking hypocrite. Because you cannot deny that these parts exist in these books, in these faiths. These violent calls to action exist in both the Quran and the Bible. And a lot of them are almost fucking identical, right? If you really read the Bible and you read the Quran, like this, they have very similar calls to action, right? When it comes to violence. I have the right to say that I hate fucking both of them, but I can respect you as an individual because you denounce that shit. That makes more sense to me. I believe so I can try to understand where they're coming from. Yeah, I mean, it's fun to be able to have a theological conversation with someone. But just like I said earlier, most people are incapable of looking, like, of paying attention to the theology. Like the Crusades, people didn't give a shit about the theology. They didn't care. It was, oh, you believe in a different invisible man than I do, so convert or die. And we're seeing that conversation happen again. That conversation should never happen. But it's happening again. Now, how do we move without becoming the monster in this situation? One, avoiding scapegoating, right? Scapegoating is, it's what they do to us, right? The Christians, at least, right? We're the scapegoat for all the world's fucking problems, apparently. So avoid scapegoating. Don't scapegoat a group of people or a person or anything like that, right? No scapegoating. And then how to criticize ideology without dehumanizing individuals. I know that's not easy, but it's something we really need to learn how to do. Right? We need to stop dehumanization. Like that, because that's the next step, right? That's the next part in the process, right? Is dehumanization, dehumanizing, right? Like, you know, when you're able to kill another person is because you're able to look at them as a threat and not a human being. That's when violence is no longer violence. It becomes something akin to civic duty in one's mind. Right? And the importance of solidarity with reformist Muslims who also want secular governance. And trust me, there are a lot of them. They're just afraid to say anything because of how the communities are run. I know hundreds, and I'm not even understating this. I know hundreds of them for the 2 years that I lived in Istanbul. But even with the way the Turkish government was being run, they were afraid to say it. And Turkey at the time, when I was there, like in 2006, was like a beacon of hope in the Muslim community because of how westernized it was. Telling people they are wrong or should change their beliefs, we stop having a conversation. We can be hard as many do not understand the line which is easily crossed. Exactly. And that's the hard part, guys. The hard part here is not crossing the line and not taking shit personally. Religious laws in any religion say that you can't question. I mean, let's look at the Bible. Like, you ask certain questions about the Bible, it's a mystery of the Bible. We don't question it. You know, staying aware that far right and far left extremisms thrive in the same fear. This is extremely important. Both sides, far left and far right, and I know the line on what's considered far has been blurred, guys. Like, it really has, right? It's not that the moderate right and the moderate left don't exist anymore. They do, right? I mean, just look at Mystic and Rook. Mystic and Rook, I think, are perfect examples of moderate left, right? So the moderate left and the moderate right, they still exist, but because they're not the vocal majority or the vocal minority, like the loud ones, it blurs the line, right? And so the moment somebody starts expressing a conservative idea or, you know, a progressive idea, we immediately click to the extremes, right? Our brain how our brains are wired right now, we immediately click to the extremes. But we need to understand that the far right and the far left, they both thrive on the same fear, the same thing. It's the same ideology on a different side. Like, when we look at the spectrum of politics, if we look at it like a circle, right? And we look at what we consider the middle on the outside of that circle, that's where the moderates kind of sit, or centrists sit, right? They sit in that middle part that's right in front of your face. And then you have a gradient that kind of starts going to more extremes, right? What most people don't see is the other side of that circle, where the far left and the far right touch on the other side of that circle. They're the same thing with different branding. They are. And they always will be. That's the thing, though. The line hasn't been pushed. It's been blurred, but it hasn't been pushed. It's still there. We just need to stay in that area. And here's the thing. If you look at things in a gradient sense, right? In a spectrum idea, right? So if we look at it that way, we have two extreme points and we have the gradient in the middle, right? And we want to sit somewhere in the middle, wherever that might be. It's a little bit more left, a little bit more right, dead center, whatever, it doesn't matter. It takes a lot of discipline and work and responsibility to stay in that center space. Because it's kind of like, I don't know if you guys have ever played with one of these fucking things, but it's like, you know, a little fucking, like, almost like where you have to move the balls around and you have to get them inside the little pockets and stuff. And if you have the balls at the bottom and you hold it perfectly balanced, the ball will be in the center. But if you tilt just a little bit one way or a little bit another way, the ball will just fall all the way on the other side, whatever side's slightly tilted, right? And so staying center with everything that's being blasted at you every fucking day, every day this shit is just blasted and blasted and blasted. Social media, the fucking news, your friends, your family, right? This shit's just fucking, it's in your face all the goddamn time, right? And it's rage bait culture, right? That's what it is, right? So you have to, like, you start listening to your mom and your dad and your brother and your sister and your friends and shit like that, and that control that you have on keeping shit balanced starts to tilt a little bit, right? And then the ball just falls right into the extreme side, right? With the littlest little bit of a tilt. To keep center, it takes discipline and it takes work to not fall into the propaganda that is being pushed on either side of the aisle. To not allow it to affect you emotionally. The moment you start feeling pissed off, you're tilting one way or the other. So that's the difficult part. Because the Christian right wants to pull you one way. The left wants to pull you the other way. And so both sides are blasting you every single day, trying to get that trigger point, right? Trying to find what's gonna click. What's that one thing that you're gonna see that's gonna push you to the other side? One side or the other. And it takes work to look at all sides from every angle and pay attention. It takes work to do that. Keep the balance, right? So, also, occultists need clarity, not tribal loyalty, is another thing. So, every time society gets scared, it hunts an enemy. If you let fear make your target for you, you're just becoming someone else's weapon. That's not the left-hand path. That's herd panic. We critique systems because we care about freedom. not because we need someone to punish. I critique organized religion, societal norms, religious ideology, because I can't stand it. And I feel the only true path to absolute freedom is the ability to be able to critique things regardless of how sensitive the group is. Again, I will rest in the fact that you being offended by something I say is not my problem. If you're offended by something that I say, an idea that I have, that's not my problem. It will never be my problem. And I will never bend my knees to someone that threatens violence against me or my family, or verbally attacks me because I disagree with an ideology, an idea, a topic, whatever. I will never, ever bend my knees to anyone. I will have conversations. I will listen. But I won't bend my knees to anyone or anything. And those that know me know that I'm not a hateful person. I don't live with hate. I live with gratitude. And yeah, I mean, you know, that's pretty much it, you know? Yeah, and to you too, man. To you too. Like, I'm not going to assume that you did that with expecting a reaction or hoping for a reaction, because I take that as the same thing as the Christians coming in here and going doing Crisis King. That's the equivalent of Crisis King, right? And it doesn't offend me, and I will tell you the same thing that I tell the Christians. You know, I'm happy for you. I'm proud of you. Like, if you found something that completes you, that makes you whole, that makes you feel like you found what you need to find, then God damn it, brother, like, yeah, I'm fucking proud of you, because most people struggle their entire lives to find that. And here, I'll give it to you as salam alaikum. Like I said, I lived in Turkey for 2 years, man. You know, like, I have no hate towards you. I have no disrespect towards you. That's that. That doesn't offend me. That doesn't upset me. And I think that that is the benefit of having an educated mind. Yes, Samael. Hail Stan. I don't know who Stan is, but hail Stan. So, to the Christians that are going to get pissed off at me, peace be with you. And all that fun stuff. God bless you. I mean, I wouldn't do it, but I mean, I'm sure there's somebody out there doing it, right? I mean, in Islam, like, so in Christianity, they're demons, and in Islam, there's jinn. So, like, I mean, I'm sure there's somebody out there doing it. Like, I mean, there's occultists that work with demons and Jesus and angels. So, I mean, you want to do it, go for it. Like, you don't need my fucking permission to do that shit. Like, I mean, I personally wouldn't do it, but, like, I'm not going to tell you not to. like, like, culturally speaking, they're the same thing, right? So jinn are essentially demons. Now we look at them a little bit differently. In Western culture, we look at them, as more like genies, so to speak, kind of. But to Islam, jinn are demons. When you work with jinn, you're working with demons. There is a differential, but they're essentially parallels to each other. So can cultists work with God, right? Exactly. Like, it's just like, I mean, do whatever the hell you want. I mean, like I said, would I do it? Fuck no. But, does that mean you shouldn't? No, it doesn't. And, yeah. And also, for those that don't know, like, I mean, I know a lot of people get triggered with the whole Allahu Akbar. They get triggered by that. Don't get triggered by that. Because, I mean, that just essentially means God is great. Like, that's what that means. I know the whole war on terrorism really warped people's perception of what that phrase means. But try not to get offended when you see somebody say that, because somebody will say that. Most of the time, people will say that because they're expecting some type of visceral reaction because of what it's associated with. Don't give them that visceral reaction. Don't give it to them, because it just means God is great. It's the same thing as Christ is king, right? Do what I do. Just be like, proud of you. I hope you are living your best life, and I hope you are happy with your beliefs, because I'm happy with mine. Right? So, they don't cross-translate for reasons. People who are involved in Arabian culture who also revere Allah. There you go. So, demons as having unique identities, and jinn don't have names, so I don't think of them. I'm sure you could probably find something. Like, there's probably some type of documented names for certain jinn somewhere. You'd have to do some digging, though. So... But, yeah. But yeah, I mean, again, somebody that's Christian that comes in the chat and says Christ is king, I'm proud of you. You tell me I'm gonna go to hell, I'm gonna tear into you. You come in and you say, Allahu Akbar. Proud of you. Got your beliefs. God is great. Awesome. You come in and you start telling me that, my children are going to be Muslims, and that, I'm death to the infidel and all that shit. I'm gonna tear into you. Respect the individual, or don't, but base it off of the content of their character, and how they speak to you, the direct representation of the character of that individual. The faith, I hate them all equally. Judaism, Islam, Christianity, fuck them all. Just fuck all of them. Honestly. Like, organized religion is a fucking cancer on this earth. And I will never change that fucking opinion. That is my opinion. If you don't like it, then fuck off. You can leave. Unfollow me. Block me. Like, I don't give a shit. Organized religion is a fucking cancer. Every single fucking one of them. I will not sit here and I will not say that I respect a religion because somebody is too fucking sensitive to deal with any type of fucking criticism or sit down and have a goddamn conversation. That's it. That's it. Hail fucking Satan. Right? That being said, we will end as we always begin. We reject the Trinity, we reject the baptism of John, and we reject the baptism of the Spirit. But as always, hail thy fucking self. See you in the next one. Peace the fuck out, everybody.